Hey, it's Joe Waxman, and I'm here. This morning I decided to make another video, mini reading about Aleister Crowley this morning. He's an interesting character. I know a little bit about him, mostly because he was an occultist and an astrologer, and he's written some astrology stuff, which is quite good. The guy's brilliant, but I'm not a huge fan because of some other stuff he did. He got into the darker side of occultism. Which led to Satanism. But he is an interesting character. I saw his chart and I wanted to do a mini reading on him. It's not a full reading. I'm just going over the main basic important points that made him who he was. And so, yeah, if you like it, like this video, subscribe to my channel. You can also go to my website, macroastrology.com, book a reading. Okay, let's start. All right. Aleister Crowley, 12th of October, 1875, 11:42 p.m. That's at night, England, Leamington, England, UK. All right. So he's got Sun conjunct Venus in Libra. So Venus is combust. That means it's getting burned by the sun, irritated. It is strong in Libra, where it's one of its rulerships, but the combustion is not great, especially for relationships with women. What happens is that Sun conjunct Venus, and I have this aspect, so pretty familiar with it. They love, Sun conjunct Venus generally loves relationships, especially in a man. They love women. They love to be around women. But it creates too much heat and intensity, and the relationship suffers, it gets burned. And yeah, the personality takes on Venusian quality, becomes very warm and friendly and loving, and generally Venus has this quality of wanting to appease and likes to say yes. So like if you ask a Sun conjunct Venus person, something, they're going to want to say yes. They're going to want to be, friendly and appeasing and affirming and positive. And even if they don't want to do something, they're going to want to say yes to things. So he probably had this really nice, sweet personality. Now it depends on the ascendant, how that takes place. How well you know them. If you don't know them and they have a rough ascendant, more like mine, like Scorpio or Capricorn or something, you're not going to get to the Sun conjunct Venus. It's more like on an interpersonal relationship when you get a little bit beyond the ascendant. But yeah, so the Venus is, it's not in great shape. It is strong in Libra, like I said, but relationships are suffering here. Libra is an air sign, cardinal air, so it's very idea oriented. He likes to be Sun in Libra is debilitated. It's opposite. It's exaltation in Aries. So the Sun here is not very strong. He kind of had like a mushy personality, I think, like on the surface, at least as for his Sun conjunct Venus in Libra. It's very feminine, kind of, but he does have some other strengths, definitely. In the fourth house, I think probably there was some issues around his mother. Like, I don't know his history, so like I really know very little about him, so I can't really say. I'm just reading the chart. It's fourth house quadrant by quadrant, but third sign, so that's interesting. Communication issues, communication around the mother. Anyway, normally I go to the moon next, but this is just so obvious that I want to talk about his Mars. Mars in Capricorn, not at its highest degree of exaltation, which is I think 28 degrees, but still quite high in the sixth house. His Mars is super powerful, right? Mars is the masculine, aggressive planet of war, energy, muscles, aggression, domination, and it's in the sixth house. Mars does excellent in the sixth house. Like he could really crush his enemies, as they say, with this position. Great, huge fighting spirit. Like he was a fighter, but which is interesting because he sort of has this mushy kind of sun, a little bit effeminate, but then it's square to his Mars. So he had this incredible aggressive quality that was very detrimental to, again, to his Venus, this square, Mars square Venus. It's very passionate, but especially because it's combust by the sun, squaring a super powerful Mars in a really strong position. I think he was abusive towards women. I think his relationship to women was not very good. And it sort of falls together when I put everything together. Also, this opposition to Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, the reject. He was rejected at birth by his mother. So there's a lot of issues around women and relationships. He probably felt very rejected by women because anytime you have an opposition, there is it's relational. It's really about you and another. This oppositional force, and relationships have that quality. So there was a lot of wounding and rejection around women, and because it's squaring with this Mars, then the energy is coming into this Mars, this very strong dominating Mars, because he felt so rejected by women and he had very dissatisfying relationships. He was taking it out on women, abusing women, right? And so that's how he, that's one of the patterns within him that we'll see that created who he is. Now his moon is in Pisces in the 8th house with a sextile, tight sextile, and to Pluto. So this is a psychic moon. This is a lot of psychic potential here because it's the 8th sign, 8th house. 9th house cusp, but still. And he had a lot of psychic potential, and he was deeply into the occult. 8th house is the house of the occult in a water sign. Sextile Pluto. Pluto gives psychic potential, spiritual powers, depth of awareness, depth of analytics, like very deep perception. Pluto is the planet of deep thinking. So when it's aspecting the moon, especially in a harmonious aspect, it creates really deep penetrating mind, deep penetrating psychic inner mind that was also quite aggressive. Mars to moon, even though this is a good aspect, Mars to moon can also indicate dominating women, because moon is a feminine planet, it's the mother, and it's a feminine sign, and this Mars is ultra strong, so it's like aggressive. It's adding to his aggressive qualities. And then here we have Pallas opposite the moon, and this is a minor aspect, but because it plays such an integral role here, we have a kite formation with Pluto, Moon, Mars, Pallas, Athena. Pallas, especially in Virgo, is going to add another layer of intellect to his moon that gives him this even greater intellectual power. Because Pallas is the asteroid of wisdom, especially as it relates to war. Pallas Athena was the goddess who she was a warrior goddess, but very wise. She preferred strategy and wisdom over battle, but she could go to battle if need to. So it's like very strategic thinking, right? So he had this really powerful, strong mind. And Mars also has a lot of intellectual ability, capacity. I mean, so does Pluto. Pluto provides the depth, the real psychological penetrating depth, and Mars provides the logic, the mechanical skills, like the engineer. Mars is great with just that kind of, it bridges the mind and the ability to put things together. right? The physical. So it's like great for engineers and mechanics and logical thinking and computers and stuff like that. Exalted in the 6th house, wonderful, you know, computational ability in his mind. All right, so powerful psychic mind, incredibly smart. Okay, his ascendant is in Leo. Leo ascendants are, again, it's one of the most powerful ascendants because Leo just gives this tremendous confidence and egotism, and this brightness, and just this ability to, you know, to do well in the world, because it's just this power. It's ruled by the sun, and Leo takes center stage. Leo's weakness is too much pride, too much ego, right? They just want to be the center of everything, and they don't think about others. They can be very generous and big-hearted, but often play a leadership role. Here he has Uranus in the 1st house, and I have Uranus conjunct the ascendant. Mine's a Scorpio. Frankly, mine is in a better position because Uranus does better in Scorpio. But Uranus is Uranus, and Uranus is a planet of brilliance. It's a planet of out-of-the-box thinking. It's a planet of independence. And when it's in the 1st house like this, it creates such an awareness of the world, because 1st house is the house of awareness. It's the house of consciousness. This is the Eastern horizon, right? So whatever's in the 1st house is like what's coming over the Eastern horizon. You know, like the news. The newest news is basically what you're going to find in the 1st house. It's the house of awareness, what we're immediately aware of in the world. And Uranus here is the planet of awareness too, because it's called the Great Awakener. It's the planet that brings wide open perception. Like the symbol of how to think about Uranus is like Uranus, like a lightning bolt. And when a lightning bolt hits, it creates an explosion, right? The lightning bolt itself is vertical, but the explosion is horizontal. So Uranus hits with a vertical bolt of lightning, but then it creates this wide open horizontal opening, like a flash of brilliance, a flash of insight, a flash of awareness into brand new, never before seen or heard awareness. So it creates this awakening, this opening. So Uranus is the planet where discoveries can be made and new things can be made, inventions, just out of the box thinking, wide open. The problem is that it's opposite its rulership in Aquarius. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. So Saturn here is strong, but it's also ruled by Uranus. So it's opposite. So it's in detriment here in Leo, because Leo is too egocentric. Leo doesn't think about everyone else. Leo thinks about itself. And because it's big-hearted, it can be generous. But Leo's really opposite Aquarius, where Aquarius is concerned with society and the big picture. And Uranus is too, but this is a very egocentric Uranus. So he's using the brilliance of Uranus for egocentric means. And it really starts to make sense when you put it together, when you think about Aleister Crowley, what he stood for. Do as thou wilt, you know? I mean, how egocentric is that? Like, just do whatever you want, like hurt people, doesn't matter. Like, take advantage, because he's egocentric, basically. And he's using this brilliant mind, and he was brilliant. Not, you know, he wasn't famous for nothing. He was a brilliant mind, which we've seen with his moon. And here is Uranus. Uranus creates a lot of brilliance in the 1st house. Even the sun in Libra, even though it's debilitated, it's you know, Libra is still quite bright, quite intelligent. It's opposite directly to the degree opposite Saturn. So here there's a direct opposition to rules, right? Do as thou wilt. Okay, Uranus is the rebel, Saturn is the law, the structure. He was like, no, I'm not going to be structured by your stupid laws. I'm going to do whatever I want. You know, Uranus in Leo, in the ascendant, the 1st house. Right? Uranus does not want to be controlled. Uranus is the rebel. Uranus wants to be free. Saturn wants restriction. He's like, fuck that. No, I'm going to do whatever I want. Egotism, Uranus, rebel. So yeah, he was directly pushing off of rules, regulation, structure, discipline. And he was crazy. Like he just did everything, like, you know, sex, drugs, whatever, like just no limits. That's this. It's this egocentric Uranus, right? In opposition to all rules and regulations and laws. And I'll be damned, he's going to do whatever he wants. And there's more that backs that up, but I'm getting to it. Saturn here, wherever planet is retrograde, whatever house it rules, it is said that that's optional, that whatever the house represents, it's optional. So this is 6 and 7. 7th is obviously relationships, and the most common one is the marriage. So here, marriage is optional for him, and I don't even know if he got married or not, but it was an optional thing because retrograde planet means they don't have, it could go either way. Your Saturn here, it's going to delay the marriage anyway and could provide an older partner, but Saturn in Aquarius is strong, creates very strong, good scientific thinking. Again, Saturn is another planet that really helps with, a strong Saturn will help with intelligence a lot, help with, you know, wherever, as he ages, as he grows, he can become like very strong wherever Saturn is. In Aquarius, so like this scientific thinking. Yeah, I mean, this can give a good long-lasting marriage, but in retrograde, it's optional. So I don't know if you got married or not, but it's a good Saturn. Generally, you want a good Saturn when you're dealing with a lot of squares, which he has, because squares mean that you can overcome the difficulties and the challenges. A good Saturn helps you overcome the difficulties and challenges. So does a good Mars, because Mars is like the strength of will, of force. Saturn's the strength of will, of discipline, right? One is like holding the line, keeping the, you know, discipline, even though he was not very disciplined. He could be if he wanted to. You know, when it suited him, he could be disciplined. So I'm sure he had enough ability to overcome difficulties, but he was just too egotistical, so it didn't really matter to him. He had North Node in the 9th house, and this makes a lot of sense because he did start his own religion, and that's 9th house deals with religion, philosophy, higher learning, higher education. It's the house of God. But Rahu, North Node, creates a falseness because it's a shadow planet. It's not a real planet. So the North Node creates an obsessive quality to whatever house and sign it's in, but it also creates a falseness. So here he has it in Aries, ruled by this Mars. So this, well, the 9th cusp is in Pisces, but you know, here, you know, it's going into Aries. And Aries can be very selfish because it doesn't really, you know, the fire planets are very confident, but especially Aries and Leo, very single, very self-minded. Sagittarius less so because it has Jupiter ruling it. But yeah, oftentimes, a lot of times, you can see North Node in the 9th house. These people create their own philosophy or sometimes their own religion, you know, like he did, Thelema, I think it's called. He created his own religion, right? And the religion was, I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, fuck you. And I'm gonna abuse women, and I'm gonna be like, you know, just this horrible person and brilliant at the same time, you know, like, he was an unsavory character, but he got away with it to the extent that he did get away with it because he's got this mix of, you know, strength and weakness, very strong brilliance, but very low morale, very low moral character. His moral qualities were degraded, sorry. Whenever you're talking about the 9th house, you look to Jupiter, and here we see Jupiter and Mercury in Scorpio. So here we have this fascination with the occult, the 8th house moon. This might be a 9th house moon. It's 8th, 9th, but it is Pisces. So, but Scorpio is the sign of the occult, right? I'm a Scorpio ascendant, Uranus in Scorpio. I've got an 8th house sun in Venus. I know about Scorpio occultism. That's why I'm into astrology. And here he was in astrology. Uranus on the ascendant, also astrology. Very strong interest in occultism. Jupiter conjunct Mercury creates a very big mind. He's not really so much for details. He's for the big picture. And he's for, you know, the darker side of life. So his philosophy, his religion that he created was going to be dark, okay? Because Jupiter is in Scorpio, so it's deep, dark, sexual, the seedier side of life, you know, drugs and sex and occultism and magic. And, you know, the ruler of Scorpio, the co-ruler, is in, you know, exalted. So this is very strong, right? The underlying, you know, underlying, and it's in the fourth house, fourth sign, actually. So that's a water house, water sign, right? This is third sign, this is fourth sign. And fourth house. So it is a water house. So here we're bringing in more of this watery quality that you know, relates to the occult. Mercury has a little bit of a square to Saturn. That creates learning disability, especially when younger. So there was probably some, you know, he had to grow up. He had to grow into himself and into his mind. But you know, Mercury, Saturn aspects can become very intelligent because they have to work very hard at their intellect, because when they're young, it's restricted and impeded. Yeah. So okay, the other thing is, like, go back here, Pluto. So this is the 10th sign. It's not the MC. The MC is in the 9th sign, basically. So like a career out of philosophy, a career out of religion, which is what he had. And healing, and, you know, mysticism. Let's see. Okay, so Neptune is opposite Jupiter. That's going to expand his mind even further and give him even greater mystical idealism and spirituality, make his mind go even bigger, which he liked to do. He wanted, you know, like he liked drugs, you know, he wanted to expand his mind a lot. And this creates more of a mystical, spiritual career. And Pluto creates this obsessive quality. It's still very high in this. It's the 10th sign, not the 10th house. It's 11th. So he probably had very powerful community because it's 11th house cusp. Although Venus, we know, is in trouble here. I mean, you know, it's a mixed bag because Venus it's in domicile, but it's got this harsh aspect to Mars and Chiron, so, and the Sun. So yeah, I mean, it's strong Venus, but it's got really bad aspects. There's just like a strong Venus that's taking a lot of abuse, right? A very abused Venus. But Pluto here creates powerful, like big, powerful, obsessive quality. So obsessed about career, obsessed about community, obsessed about the public image, has probably propelled him to fame, to notoriety to a large degree. Even though his MC is over here, it's still very public, very visible. And it's a, you know, mystical planet. Pluto's a spiritual, mystical planet. Sexual, powerful, desirous, intense, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think this explains him pretty well. We also have this grand trine here. Oh, I talked about that. The kite, right? The kite with his moon. Yeah, basically just a very selfish rebel who had the means to propel himself to greatness and invented his own religion. I don't want to say greatness, but notoriety, fame in the occult world, the occult realm. So yeah, like not a savory character, but definitely he had his brilliance. That's Aleister Crowley in a nutshell, inventing his own religion. Probably a great storyteller and speaker too, because South Node in the third house can really speak. It can really communicate well. South Node creates, you know, it's what we're born with, the skills that we're really familiar with. And South Node creates a detachment. It's not super close to his sun or Venus, but it is in Libra. So the whole sign of Libra has a sort of detachment to home, detachment to mother, detached because it's third sign, so detachment to friends, siblings. Yeah. And obsessed with career, obsessed with his career as a religious guy, fake religion. Rahu creates fakeness. So anyway, that's it. If you liked it, you want to book a reading, check out my website, macroastrology.com. Like, share, subscribe. All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.